The Star and D'Amico Show is brought to you by cheapesttshirts.ca. If you're looking for quality gear without overpaying, check out cheapesttshirts.ca. A huge selection for men, women, and kids. Hoodies, t-shirts, headwear, bags, even towels. Get this. Order today, ship today, delivery tomorrow. Style, value, and speed, all with cheapesttshirts.ca. Brought to you by Cabletel. For reliable alarm systems in Quebec and Eastern Ontario, you can trust Cabletel, servicing the region for more than 20 years. Expert installation and top-tier protection for your home or business. Visit cabletel.com. Email them info@cabletel.com to get secure today. It's Cabletel. Peace of mind you can count on. Brought to you by Morella's. Craving unforgettable steak and fine dining? Morella's Steakhouse on Highway 132, 15 minutes from downtown Montreal, brings you premium cuts, bold flavors, and an atmosphere that's perfect for any night out. From exceptional service to an outstanding wine list, this is where great meals become great memories. Reserve your next night out and go to morellasteakhouse.ca to reserve now. Taste excellence tonight. Brought to you by Little Bear. Looking for the best for your pet? LittleBearOnline.com with online orders. They're also available on Uber Eats. It's a family-owned business in Montreal that's been around for more than 30 years. Chuck, Evie, and their wonderful staff have all your needs taken care of because they care about your pet as much as you do, with the best prices on top brands from around the world. Toys, food, bedding, everything your pet could ever want. LittleBearOnline.com or visit their store on St. Catherine across from Westmount Square. Brought to you by McLean's. Get down to McLean's Pub, 1210 Peel Street in downtown Montreal. It's your go-to spot for great food, cold drinks, and big sports on the big screens. Classic pub food and a lively vibe only steps from all the action. Stop by today at McLean's, 1210 Peel Street. Good times and great company. And welcome to the live presentation the morning after the night that was for the Montreal Canadiens. I'm Sean Starr, joined by my special guest, filling in for the on-the-road Marco D'Amico as his Mexican scouting assignment continues. It's Peter Vrionis from TSN 690, who you hear regularly on the weekends from 10 to noon as co-host of The Starters with Simon Salikas, and every now and again on Melnick in the afternoon, and of course part of our Montreal Canadiens coverage on TSN 690 and the Delmar postgame show. Peter, welcome for the first time. Welcome to the channel, brother. Good to see you.
Oh, it's great to be on, Sean. I'm a big fan of what you and Marco do on the daily, and I'm happy to be making my Star and D'Amico show debut today.
Yeah, and looking forward to having you on, and I know the chat's going to appreciate what you bring to the table. And again, a reminder, you can see the show on the road. Marco will be back. He's in Mexico on a work assignment. Truthfully, that's where he is. So if you're just joining us, wondering where he's been, that's where he's been. And we'll be live at McLean's Public House, 1420 Peel Street on Saturday night for a live viewing. Of the Star and D'Amico show ahead of the Montreal Canadiens. They're on the road now for the next 3 games. It starts tonight at 7 in Washington, Buffalo on Thursday in a mega game, and then, of course, the always contentious battle that is Montreal and Ottawa. But, Peter, the Montreal Canadiens, a back-and-forth game against the league worst Vancouver Canucks, who went into the game winless in 6 on 37 points. Back and forth for Jakub Dobeš, who made his first appearance in goal since the new year. Haven't seen him since that 12-goal combination between the Hurricanes and Habs in a 7-5 verdict for the Canadiens. But it looked like he settled down when they really needed him to, didn't he? Especially in that third period, locking down 9 saves to ultimately preserve what turned into a 6-3 win.
Yeah, and a couple of late posts as well helped keep that box score pretty friendly for Jakub Dobeš. But yeah, it's tough, Sean, with this 3-goalie system and playing once every 2 weeks or once a week. So it's not an easy adjustment, I'm sure, for the young goaltender who doesn't have that much NHL experience. So it's a learning curve for him, and he's doing a pretty good job of navigating it, not really making a big stink about it or not saying how it's affecting his play. Like he went out there yesterday, did his job against an inferior team, and I think the shot total really shows that as well. The Canadiens really took it to Vancouver yesterday, and they had to because they're going to be in tough tonight.
Yeah, no doubt. It's Washington tonight. And to put some context on this, right, is as Keats mentions in the live chat here, huge win last night, 6-3 final. The Canadiens get 4 of their 6 goals from the blue line, including the first ever multi-goal night for defenseman Alex Carrier, who got to career point milestone 100 with his first goal. Potts another. Noah Dobson gets the Canadiens on the power play. Mike Matheson to open up the third period. Basically scores the game winner. That was the 4-3 goal. So the defense was electrifying yesterday. But obviously one of the key components going into the Habs and Capitals tonight. And let's start here. A brilliant strategic move by the Canadiens, sending Sam Montembeault to Washington a day before. So he was there, I presume, watching the Montreal Canadiens from his hotel or the hotel bar in Washington, D.C. yesterday, because the Montreal Canadiens, they couldn't fly into Reagan because of you can't fly in that late. They only got off the plane in Dulles. It's an hour bus ride from that airport in the shuttle to the hotel. The Canadiens didn't check in till about 2:30 in the morning today. And it's a quick turnaround against a Washington Capitals team, Peter, that lost to Nashville and did not play. And I wonder about this. Like, this was the last team the Canadiens played in the playoffs and lost in 5 games. I mean, is this a rivalry game here? Does the playoff, kind of what happened there carry into a game like tonight?
Uh, maybe for some players, but a lot of those. I mean, Josh Anderson's not going to be there, and he was he was the big
Yeah.
reason as to why that whole bench brawl started with Tom Wilson. So I don't know. I wouldn't go that far. I think there's a laundry list of teams that the Montreal Canadiens can't stand that are way ahead than the Washington Capitals. So I wouldn't go that far, but definitely a team that Canadiens fans have circled on their radar for what went down in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're a good team. When you look at the landscape of the Eastern Conference, maybe there are 3 or 4 better teams than the Montreal Canadiens that we can definitively say are better than them. And I would put Washington in that grouping. And they're a tough team. They're a physical team. They're a veteran team. And yes, I do think it's a good measuring stick for the Habs, but I wouldn't go as far as to say it's a rivalry.
Washington on 52 points is the grouping of teams, right? The Toronto Maple Leafs go to Colorado on a William Nylander overtime winner to beat the Avalanche 4-3 last night as they jump to the top wildcard spot on 53 points. They've also won 4 in a row. They're 8-0-2 in their last 10. So the Maple Leafs are very much on the come up. The Buffalo Sabres, who the Habs will visit on Thursday night, they're next, also on a heater. They're 8-2. Granted, coming off a loss, but on 52 points with Washington. The Boston Bruins have won 3 in a row. They're on 52 points. Then you have 2 teams on 51 in Pittsburgh and Florida. Makes this game of the utmost importance. And if the Montreal Canadiens are going to do it again, I wonder about this angle, And yes, we're going to get into the Slavkovsky, Kapanen, Demidov trio and how good they looked last night. Demidov on 3 points, Slavkovsky on 3 points. Kapanen scores his 16th of the year. These guys, all 3 of them, are on pace for a very, very special season. But is this where perhaps the advantage of being the youngest team in hockey can maybe hurt them and not hurt them? Help them, not hurt them, when we talk about how late they got into the hotel. Again, if you're just joining us, the Habs checked into their hotel in Washington at 2:30 this morning. Puck dropped just after 7 o'clock. But, maybe this is an advantage, that this isn't an old team per se, that the young team, that maybe these guys will have a quick turnaround and be able to absorb the very early morning check-in.
Yeah, well, you look around the NHL, Sean, and every team has had a condensed schedule because of the Olympics that
Yeah.
are coming up. And the Canadians have dealt with a lot of injuries, and a lot of teams have dealt with injuries and inconsistencies. There's been ups and downs for pretty much every team except for the Colorado Avalanche. I mean, even lately, they've been losing a couple of games here lately. So every team is going to go through those ebbs and flows. And yeah, being a young squad, maybe not knowing any better and just going out there with that reckless abandon, it could help you in a back-to-back scenario here. But the way that the Habs have played lately, they've been pretty calculated. They've been very disciplined. And I I like their chances tonight.
Yeah.
You know, maybe against a team that
Mm.
they can outskate and a team that they could take it to. They took it to Vancouver yesterday,
Hmm.
and I don't know if you could employ that same strategy against a team like Washington, but I think that's the way that the Habs want to play on a night out basis.
Isn't it refreshing to watch this Canadians team? Like, it was obvious. I mean, that goaltender, Nikita Tolopilo, was on top of his game. I mean, the Canadians peppered him with 41 shots, and they could have run away with this game. I don't know if it could have been like Bruins Rangers, a 10-2 scoreline type of scenario, but if he was average yesterday, the Montreal Canadiens, smoke Vancouver. And that, when I'm watching this game, especially, they're winning battles. They're overly physical, pushing Vancouver around. They're first on pucks, peppering the goaltender, as I just mentioned, that you can see the clear disparity, I guess, between a team like Vancouver that's rebuilding. I mean, this Canucks organization, brother, they're not that far removed. Like, look who they
No.
had. Elias Pettersson on an unbelievable season, JT Miller, Quinn Hughes, the list goes on of players they had, and they were locked and loaded. And now the reality is they're in rebuild mode. But it's nice to see that it was obvious just watching that game that Montreal was just full stop the better team. Whereas maybe in the past, they struggled against teams like that, with the pushback.
Yeah, and just a quick word on Vancouver. I was at the game last night, and
Yeah.
I saw a bunch of Canucks fans with paper bags over their heads and
Oh, wow.
asking for Francesco Aquilini to sell the team. They're not happy over there, and it's such a fall from grace, right? To go from second round exit where you just narrowly lose in Game 7 to the Edmonton Oilers, then you fast forward a couple of years and you've never really entered a rebuilding situation, but you're forced to kind of do that if you're the Canucks. And for the Habs, yeah, to your point, Sean, time and time again, we have seen them play down to the level of their competition. On paper, unequivocally, they were the better team yesterday against Vancouver. But how many times in the past have we seen them not apply that?
Yeah.
And they have the talent on most nights to come out winners, but they took it to Vancouver right away. They were peppering the goalie who had a handful of games in the NHL, and they just said, no, we're not letting you into this game. We're not leaving this up for doubt. Like, we are going to take it to you. We are going to dominate this game from minute 1 to minute 60. And I think that's a sign of the growth of the Canadiens, because young teams maybe tend to take some other teams lightly. Oh, we're better than these guys. We're going to walk all over them tonight. And then you get reminded pretty quick that they're all NHL players and that they all want to win a hockey game on any given night. So the Habs have matured a great deal here, and it's shown in their results lately.
It's going to be interesting to see, as the big Bobrovsky points out here. Let's calm down a bit about that win last night. Vancouver, worst team in the NHL. Habs should be beating that team rather easily. And look, I mean, they were able to jump on Vancouver for most of the night. They scored fast and furious on 2 separate occasions, right? If we look at how the game kind of unfolded, Noah Dobson on the power play made it 1-1. Alexander Carrier scores goals 20 seconds apart, number 2 and 3 on his season. And then Mike Matheson and Uri Slafkovsky, more or less 38 seconds apart in that third period, busted open the game in a 6-3 final. So, I mean, they handled their business. And granted, Vancouver came into town winless in 6. I mean, they're going to play with pride. I think we're talking about like 2 teams in the NHL that are winless in 2026 since the calendar turned. I think Vancouver's one, and the Anaheim Ducks. What happened to that team, right?
Wow.
I mean, they came out of the gate flying, Brian, and they've lost 9 in a row now, and they're on 45 points and winless in 2026 as Montreal goes to Washington with Sam Montembeault between the pipes. I really didn't have that much of a problem with Jakub Dobeš yesterday, his first start since New Year's Day. The rebound control was a little suspect, but like, how much are you going to hang on this guy? Yesterday, that was his first game in 11 days. I don't know what a lot of people were expecting What about how the team played in front of him, especially defensively? Arbor Jackeye didn't have the best second period. He collides with Caden Gooley. It results in a goal. Another giveaway where he chucks the puck up the middle of the ice that keeps Vancouver's pressure sustained. What about how the team and Jakub Dobeš played for you?
I liked their game yesterday. I thought they had that jump early on, and Caden Gooley being back is just such a huge boost to this team. Even though you could tell he's still ramping up, right? Like
Yeah.
he's not really getting those heavy minutes like he would be usually. But it's just great to have another steady defenseman back in the lineup for this Habs team. And Jackeye, to go back to that, Sean, I've loved his game lately.
Yeah, me too.
I think he's really slowed it down and simplified it. And to be honest, when you don't notice him, it's a good thing. But last night, I think you noticed him for some of the wrong reasons, like that turnover in the middle of the ice that leads to a goal. But when he's laying the body, when he's playing sound defensively and angling the forwards to the boards and doing his job, I think he's a really effective defenseman, and the mistakes have been limited for him, and the mistakes have been limited for the Habs overall lately. So I liked their game last night, and they did what they had to do against an inferior team.
So the Montreal Canadiens finally score a power play goal. Feels like forever, right? Not a lot of power plays. Good on the Canadiens for righting the ship. They were very undisciplined in that shutout loss to Detroit over the weekend, right? Was it 3 straight calls? Red Wings had 5 power plays total in the 4-0 win. Yesterday, Vancouver goes 0 for 2 on the power play. The Canadiens get 1 power play opportunity. Noah Dobson scores 3 seconds into it. Interesting look, the decision, right? I think they went into that. What was that? I think they were 1 for 16 or 1 for their last 17 on the man advantage, and a tough call, but we'll see what happens in terms of the overall picture. But Lane Hutson off the first wave of the power play. Noah Dobson and Alex Texier occupy MSL's first power play wave. Were you surprised that the coaching staff decided to make that change?
Yeah, I don't know how long that's gonna last though, because we've seen Zach Bolduc be on that top unit for maybe a game, and then Ivan Demidov is right back on it the next game. So, uh, from what I know, I think we've heard Martin St. Louis say that he tailors his top power play unit to what you're going to see from the opposition, and I guess keeping in mind that they have an inexperienced goaltender. Maybe you want a guy with a heavier shot up top to fire pucks on net, and that's what Dobson did, and it led to a goal. But the more puzzling thing for me is the Alex Texier in for Ivan Demidov. That I was kind of shaking my head on, but then they scored 5 seconds later, so I didn't really question it.
There's Peter Vionis. He's sitting in for Marco D'Amico today. Marco, if you're just joining us, is traveling all week. He'll be back with us later in the week. And don't forget, we're going to be live at Maison Public House coming up on Saturday night for a live viewing party. We're going to be live from 6 to 7. Then we're going to hang around, have some drinks, eat some great food with great service at Public House, 1420 Peel Street, when the Montreal Canadiens wrap up their road trip when they play at Ottawa. So I hope to see a bunch of you. We've got a lot of gifts and swag to give away. So if you got some time, you want to come down to the city, or if you're in the neighborhood, come on and say hello and enjoy the show. So that'll be Saturday night at Public House on Peel, Saturday night from 6 to 7. I don't really mind the power play change. And my logic is, I thought for a while, the Montreal Canadiens need a shot from the point, especially when the power play wasn't going great for a minute, and then it caught fire and has been basically off and on a top 10 power play unit in the NHL all season, right? But to have that shot from the point, is huge. And it gives the Canadiens another weapon when that first unit gets off, because you still have Suzuki and Caulfield out there, and Alex Texier is on fire, that when the second wave comes on, Hudson and Demidov, magic too. But what about the importance of having that big shot on the point, especially on the first wave from Dobson? And it obviously cashed 3 seconds in yesterday.
I mean, you don't really see it very often anymore, just around the league in general.
Yeah.
The slap shot is pretty underutilized. And I think having different looks on that power play just keeps it fresh and it keeps you rolling as well. It doesn't mean that Lane Hudson's never going to step foot on the first power play unit again. It's just a different look for the opposition. And when they do go through these slumps, it's because they get predictable and they're maybe overpassing the puck, or Lane Hudson refusing to shoot from the blue line and always looking to pass to Cole Caulfield or to Ivan Demidov on his right. So I think giving different looks is a good thing for Martin St. Louis and the coaching staff. And I don't know, it's just good to have two different profiles as well with your quarterbacks in Noah Dobson and Hudson, and a guy who can fire a 100 or 90-mile-an-hour slap shot off, and then Lane Hudson, who's going to carve you up with his skill.
And finally, and I know it was the Vancouver Canucks, I think the Montreal Canadiens with their skills and their depth, can poke holes in a team that doesn't have as much structure as, some veteran teams, some more competitive teams. For example, like Juraj Slafkovsky in front of the net. Like, it's nice to see big number 20 there with that net front presence. And I want to get into the how potent that number 2 line is. Are we still calling it the number 2 line based on their production? But Ivan Demidov in a game like yesterday, I mean, it felt like that was like a tailor-made game for Demidov, where he was able to dangle and work his magic, and his vision, brother, I mean, is so fun to watch, like a cheat code sometimes.
Yeah, he's 1% of the 1%, right?
Yeah.
The way that he can find guys, and he's a hockey genius in a sense, with just the way that he sees the ice, and the game slows down for him at an exponential rate. So he's going to be fantastic. He already is, and this is him just scratching the surface.
Yeah.
There's so much more for him to improve on, and whether it's shooting the puck, or whether it's just being a little bit more assertive with or selfish in a sense. I think we're only seeing the beginning here from Ivan Demidov, and it's so impressive to watch. And that line, it's from day one, they just came together and gelled. And I think a lot can be said about how that all happened so quickly. We all were talking about finding the second line center here in Montreal, and how that was the biggest void. But why not just roll with this for the next decade? It's hard to find chemistry like that, and
Amen.
It's hard to find a line that just works in harmony together. Like they all do something different and bring a different element to the game, and I feel like they're all starting to take up some of their own traits as well. Like we're seeing Demidov win board battles like Slafkovsky. We're seeing Oliver Kapanen transport the puck through the neutral zone. It's been impressive to watch, and that line is box office stuff.
So, let's get into the Canadiens for a second, right? They're in Washington at 7:00 tonight. Off to Buffalo. Should be a massive game Thursday. Slafkovsky versus Demidov for a second, When you look at what these two guys have been able to do this season, Demidov is on pace for 18 goals and 52 points. Slafkovsky is on pace for a 30-goal, 68-point season. It was weeks ago we were talking about another 50, 51-point campaign for Slafkovsky, and the silver lining, Peter, was like, it's more than just points. He does this, he's doing a lot of little things that add up. But it's also nice to see a nice point total, especially if the kid can get to 30 goals, right? Oliver Kapanen on pace for 29 goals and 48 points. You add it all up, right? You add it all up. The Canadiens' second unit, if they hit these numbers, a combined 77 goals and 168 points. Are you more impressed with what Slafkovsky has done this season, or are you more impressed with what Ivan Demidov is doing this season?
Oh, just to clarify there, is it 18 goals and 52 assists for Demidov? Or
yeah. Let me double check that for a second. Okay.
Okay. So Yeah, just to answer your question, I think I've been more impressed with Uri Slafkovsky and the way
Yeah.
that he has played.
Yeah, 52 assists. Sorry, my bad. Yeah,
Yeah,
52
okay.
assists.
So
Yeah, yeah.
that prorates to 70 points, and
70 points.
that's a
Yeah.
damn good season for
Yeah.
a lot of veteran NHL players. And he's doing this in his first full season in the NHL.
Yeah.
That's wicked stuff, man. That's wicked stuff. But at the same time, we all heard about this kid and we all expected him to do what he's doing, maybe even at a higher clip.
Yeah.
So he it's not doesn't quite have the generational tag, but he was expected to be an offensive dynamo from the minute that he stepped onto the ice, and he has been that and much more. He's gotten better in other areas of his game,
Yeah.
and I think he's only scratching the surface. Like I said, I think he's going to be the guy going forward for the Canadiens. But Uri Slafkovsky, so many question marks around him, Sean, from years past.
Mm-hmm.
Not because of his talent level, not because of what he can do when he's at his best, but the question stemmed from, can he be at his best 90% of the time?
Yeah.
Can he be a guy that you rely on night in, night out? And for the longest time, up until he got put on that line with Kapanen and Demidov, it was no, because he had never done it to the consistency that he's doing it now. And we heard those comparisons to Brady Tkachuk. I feel like he's a different kind of player. He's
Interesting.
more of a playmaker. He's not as rough and sandpaper as
Yeah.
Brady, but he knows how to use his body, and he understands that he's the biggest guy on the ice and the strongest guy on the ice. So him just learning how to play the NHL game and learning that he can be the most dominant guy physically out there has really helped him be consistent every night. And that's what I've been impressed with, because now the bar is set even higher. We were wondering what the ceiling could be. I feel like it's just revolving every time he steps out on the ice. We don't know. He's not a finished product yet.
Well, that's the thing, too. Like, you look at the career games, right? And I want to tie Zach Bolduc into all of this. Uri Slafkovsky, that was career game number 246 for him yesterday. Ivan Demidov has played in 48 NHL games in his career.
Right.
Like, it's not Habs rose-colored glasses to think, like, what player are we going to be talking about 200 games from now for 93? When he's at 248 career games, and we're talking about a kid now in Demidov who's on pace for 70 points, 18 goals, 52 assists, like 100 points is definitely in the cards for this guy. Like, he's going to be the next 100-point player for the Montreal Canadiens. Like, 48 games, Peter, 200 games from now. I don't know, but he's passing every test so far.
Yeah, and I think we're just looking at the next Nikita Kucherov, and it might be kind of a lame comparison because they're both Russian skilled wingers, but I'm serious, Sean. I think this guy can be 100-point guy at minimum, and it's crazy what he can do out there. He was just toying with the Vancouver Canucks yesterday. We've had question marks about his game 5-on-5 at times, because a lot of his production and a lot of his flash and dash comes on the power play.
Yeah.
But yesterday, against a team that just can't match up speed-wise and can't match up skill-wise, he was having fun out there, and it was like a playground for him against the Canucks. And that's just kind of what I expect from him on a nightly basis once he does kind of figure it out and hit his prime. I think we are looking at a 100-point guy at a minimum here, and he's going to be the superstar of the Montreal Canadiens, and he's going to be in the Hart Trophy conversation year in, year out.
It's, again, Habs Nation, like, buckle up, because it's going to be a wild ride. You talk about superstar, I see it. A superstar in Lane Hudson on defense, who's, again, second on the team in scoring. He's on 45 points. This guy's in illustrious company in terms of what he's done as a defenseman in the National Hockey League. Ivan Demidov. I think there are 4 or 5 players in Montreal Canadiens history that have put up the point totals that Demidov has done, again, in 48 games where he is. I mean, this is very unique territory for a massive chunk of this fan base, right? And we'll talk about, I want to get Peter's take on the 3-goalie system. What's that timeline look like? The Montreal Canadiens have 3 more games to go. And then I don't believe, I'd have to double check this. I don't think, unless I'm wrong here, but I don't believe the Montreal Canadiens play another back-to-back for a minute. Because the schedule, obviously, for Habs Nation, it's been crazy, right? But yeah, exactly. They don't play another double, 2 games in 2 nights until March 6th, March 7th, Friday and Saturday in the California road trip. So things calm down after Saturday. Habs in Washington at 7 tonight. If you're just joining us, Sam Montembeault is going to get the start. A brilliant move by the Montreal Canadiens, who only checked into their hotel around 2:30, 3 o'clock this morning. It was an hour shuttle from Dulles Airport to get them to the hotel. So it was a very long travel period for the Montreal Canadiens. Washington did not play yesterday. So Sam Montembeault's got to be on top of his game. We'll see if the youngest team in the NHL can, maybe benefit, depending. Hopefully they don't have heavy legs when they hit to the ice this morning. A massive game for the Capitals, who are chasing the wild card on 52 points. Again, Marco D'Amico in Mexico, so a pleasure to have first-timer Peter Vrionis from TSN 690 on the Star and D'Amico show, and we'll be live at Public House McLean's coming up on Saturday night from 6 to 7. We've got lots of prizes to give away. I want to tie in Zach Bolduc to this. You and I talking about Demidov and Slafkovsky and their timelines and what they've done. Zach Bolduc, -2 yesterday, hasn't factored in on the score sheet not once in his last 5 games, Peter, playing anywhere between 11 and 13 and a half minutes on any given night. Are we talking about another player in the context of, he hasn't reached 200 career games in the National Hockey League? Last year, when he had a bust-out campaign with the Blues, it was very much a strong second-half season for St. Louis when they got hot and made the playoffs. What's your take and read on Zachary Bolduc? How patient are you with this guy?
I think you could be patient, but then again, he's not a highly touted prospect like Demidov or Slafkovsky. So the investment from the Canadiens is not as big into him as it was in those 2 others, for example. So I think there's going to be a level of patience here with Martin St. Louis, but we saw him get a minute on the first unit with Caulfield and Suzuki, and it just wasn't working. That entire line was just not clicking because he couldn't bring it on a nightly basis. And kind of reminds me a little bit of Slafkovsky light, the way that he can play, like throw the body around. He's got good size, decent shot on him. Scored 19 goals last year, Sean, in 11 minutes time on ice per game. So he can be a productive player. He's shown the ability to do that. But I think with the line mates that he's playing with right now in Gallagher and Deneau, it's not really conducive to scoring very many goals. So I think we have to look at the other areas of Bolduc's game to really judge him. Is he physical? Is he involved? Is he winning board battles? I think that's what we really got to take a look at right now, as opposed to the goals and the assists and the point total. But I think there will be a level of patience there. But also, Sean, just to flip it onto you here, when guys get back, can he be someone that maybe comes out of the lineup for a game or 2?
I'd be surprised. I think there are guys ahead of him personally. I don't think anyone's coming back tonight. Could we see by Thursday or Saturday? Could we see a Josh Anderson? Could we see a Kirby Dach? Guys are skating with regular jerseys on. Before we were talking about guys in no contact jerseys at practice and skating for 20 minutes in batches, right? Pay attention to the detail. Like when Caden Gooley skated for 45 minutes, he came back not that game day, the next game out, right? And made his return on Saturday at the Bell Center against Detroit. And again, looks good, man. Firing pucks, positionally sound. Unfortunately, Arbor Jacki took him out on one play, and the Canucks were able to score a goal. So we're going to start to pay attention to some of the finer details, right? But I think for me, Owen Beck is the gimme putt.
Yeah.
Because Sammy Blais, I think that was his 11th game. So now he's waiver eligible. If the Canadiens want to send Sammy Blais down to Laval because everybody's back and healthy, Sammy Blais is going to have to clear waivers. I don't think he will. Owen Beck doesn't have to clear waivers, right? And we'll talk about goaltenders and waivers a little bit later in the show, right? Because I think I have an opinion on the 3-goalie system and when I think it should come to an end. And I don't think it's coming to an end at the Olympic break a lot of people. I've got my reasonings for that. But before we get to that, I don't have a problem if Sammy Blais wants to sit for a game. Owen Beck goes to Laval. That'll free up a spot for, let's say, Josh Anderson. Sammy Blais could be a healthy scratch because I like his game. I don't want to put him on waivers. I like his physicality. I didn't think he had a great game yesterday. That was very much a top 2-line driven hockey game for the Montreal Canadiens. But his physicality, his experience, I think, is valuable to this team. But I'm not saying he has to play every day. I think if Kirby Dach is ready to come back, maybe, Sammy Blais, the guy that can maybe sit. And though I would have those two guys ahead of Zachary Bolduc. I want to handle Bolduc carefully. I don't want him to give him the idea that, he could perceive it as, well, it's his fault. He's not playing well, so now he's done. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I don't know. I think he'd be able to handle it, and there's a mandate here, Sean, to get 2 points and to put the best team out there if you're healthy. And if I take a look, I mean, there are guys that would come out of the lineup before Sammy Blais. Like Gallagher would come out of my lineup before Sammy Blais. Joe Veleno would.
Really?
Yes. I think Blais has gone as far as to make himself an indispensable member of this team with the way that he forechecks, the way that he throws the body around, the way that he can keep possession going and cycle in the O-zone. I mean, these are all things that you want out of a fourth liner, and he's doing it to perfection. So how can you fault him when guys get back? I mean, there are other guys that are making crucial mistakes that are not bringing it every game, and you're going to take out a guy who has done everything that you've asked him to do. I find in a system where Martin St. Louis preaches meritocracy, that's just the wrong message to send. Joe Veleno, when Jake Evans gets back, I think that's the easy swap right there. Josh Anderson could maybe take over the Zach Bolduc role, what he's occupying now. If you don't want to take Gallagher out of the lineup, fine. But I just don't think that you're in a position to take Blais out of the lineup because he's forced your hand right here, and he's done everything that you've asked him to do.
But Veleno in shorthanded situations, another face-off option because down the middle, you're not moving off who you have.
Suzuki, but then if you bring in Evans, you have Evans and Danault. So
you have Evans and Danault, but on the wing, let's say if you have a line of Blais, Danault, and Veleno as a fourth line, because Gallagher is a key point here. Because when Kirby Dach gets back, I don't think Kirby Dach gets into the lineup and you remove Alex Texier off that first line in game number 1. Like, I don't think that's going to happen. Dach's got to get his legs and he's got to earn his way up the lineup, doesn't he?
Yes and no. I also think there might not be any use for Kirby Dach in a bottom 6 role.
Yeah.
So you got to put your players in the best position to succeed. And even though Alex Texier is looking great on the first line right now, we got to remember that this was a player that the Canadiens acquired off of waivers. And
agreed.
He's not the long-term option there. I'm not saying that Kirby Dach is either, but we've seen Kirby Dach play with Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield for a brief period of time, and it worked out. So I wouldn't be opposed to putting him back on there right away, getting a skill guy there. And I thought Texier looked pretty good with Josh Anderson and Phil Danault as well, or before he got moved to the first line. So at the end of the day, I think Texier is the bottom 6 guy who can add a little bit of offense and a little bit of punch on that side of the ice for you. But I don't think he's a first liner. He's playing like it right now, but I don't think it is the long-term option.
Brendan Gallagher, he's been a hot button topic. I'll put it that way
Yeah.
for a minute now. I think, a chunk of the Canadiens fan base, I think, is a little frustrated with how much power play time he seems to get. He's got 1 goal in the month of January. He's got 2 points. He had 2 points in the entire month of December. Especially last year, he was coming off an unbelievable season. He played all games. His shooting percentage was abnormally high. I think it's obvious we watch these games. You pay attention to the detail. The fan base does. I do too. He's obviously a step behind the play. How let me put it to you this way. How delicate is it going to be to handle this guy? I mean, he's a proud guy. He's a heart and soul guy, and I'm all for it. As I've expressed myself about Gallagher enough. If the day comes when he retires, I would love for him to take a front office job, with the Montreal Canadiens. And he's married to a Quebecoise.
Mm-hmm.
So I would imagine he's probably going to stay here if I had to guess. I don't know. I'm just going to guess logically.
Right.
I'd love for him to stay as a Montreal Canadian somewhere in the front office, right? But do you think it's a tough decision? If I asked you to be a fly on the wall in the Habs coaching room when they talk about, okay, guys, when Anderson and Evans and Laine and Doc are all back, multiple people have to come out. We already talked about Owen Beck. He can go back to Laval, no waivers. You don't got to sweat it, right? You can argue Joe Veleno's value to the lineup. You can argue Sammy Blais' value to the lineup. Let's talk about Brendan Gallagher for a second.
Yeah, it is a delicate subject, and a portion of the fan base kind of rolls their eyes whenever you mention that Gallagher should be out of the lineup, and the other one applauds. The other half applauds. So, to me, he's been a great soldier, and an all-time Montreal Canadian, at least for my lifetime, right? Like just a guy that. A blue-collar kind of hockey player, gives it everything that he has. And he's feeling the effects of that right now. He's not the player that he once was.
Yeah.
And I think last year was a bit of an anomaly, playing 82 games and scoring 20 goals. And everyone's saying, okay, well, his shooting percentage is super low this year. It's going to come back up. It's going to normalize. I'm not so sure about that, because last year we were seeing Gallagher get to the front of the net. We were seeing him able to use some sort of speed. Doesn't have that jump this year. He's not able to get to any dangerous areas. So the reason why his shooting percentage is as low as it is because he's just firing pucks from the half wall, just directing them on net. He's not able to get to the crease and make things happen with regularity like he was in years past. And I think Father Time is just catching up with him, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But you have to acknowledge that you're in a pretty precarious situation right now if you're the Montreal Canadiens. You're trying to make the playoffs. You're trying to keep pace here in a loaded Eastern Conference where everyone seems to be winning every night. There's no margin for error. So can you really justify keeping Brendan Gallagher in the lineup when everyone is healthy? It doesn't have to be a long-term thing. You don't have to sit him out for the rest of the year. But the odd game every now and then, give him a breather, maybe try to get him back to a semblance of his old self, because right now you could tell that he's not it right now.
There's Peter Frionis sitting in for Marco D'Amico. Marco's in Mexico on a work assignment. Is he scouting? Is he trying to find the next international player for the Montreal Canadiens? Has he unearthed talent that the Canadian scouting department has yet to find? We'll find out more when Marco rejoins the show later this week. The Montreal Canadiens are back in action at 7 o'clock. Again, if you're just joining us, Sam Montembeault will get the start in net. They sent him to Washington a day early. The Montreal Canadiens didn't hit their hotel beds till about 3 o'clock this morning. So heavy legs, how will that impact the team at 7 o'clock? The Capitals did not play the last time they did. They lost, what was that, a 3-2 final to the Nashville Predators at Nashville. So it'll be interesting to see what version of the Canadiens come up here, and we'll see if the youngest team in hockey can overcome the travel and the late bedtime and get back up for a big game against the Washington Capitals tonight. So while we talk about Sam Montembeault, no problem really. Again, Jakub Dobeš hadn't played in 11 days, hadn't played since January 1st at Carolina. I think it was normal that, he fought with some rebound control in that hockey game yesterday, but when they needed him, he was a perfect 9 for 9 in that third period to preserve the 6-3 victory. Peter, I think if Sam Montembeault plays if he plays a good game today, and I think Jacob Fowler will get the Buffalo Sabres on Thursday, there's part of me that thinks now that the goaltending rotation of these three guys, including Dobeš, of course, I think it may come to an end after Saturday's game at Ottawa. Ken Hughes has been consistent, since the press conference where he addressed the status of his team at the midway point. This is not ideal. It's not a long-term fixture for the Montreal Canadiens. And that I think if Montembeault could put a good game on the board, I think they may go with Montembeault and Dobeš and send Jacob Fowler back to Laval and see if they can ride the Canadiens tandem that started the year. What do you think about that timeline, that if things go right, again, if, the old Mike Tyson rule, you can have a plan and then you get punched in the face and things change. So let's talk about the 3-goalie rotation. What does the timeline look like to you?
To me, it looks as though Dobeš is the one that's being iced out here. Gets the game against the worst team in the NHL after not playing for 11 days. I'm gonna say that it does get resolved pretty quickly because of the fact that there are no back-to-backs, like you mentioned, coming up here. So it's going to be tough to get these guys into games with regularity. So I expect Jakub Dobeš, the one to be the one to be sent down.
Really?
Yeah, I do. I do. And this all goes back to the mandate that the Habs have to get 2 points. And if you take a step back, don't regard age or development, Jacob Fowler is their most talented goaltender. And on most nights when he's in between the pipes, he gives them a good chance to win a hockey game. Whereas we've seen ebbs and flows from Jakub Dobeš. We've also seen them from Sam Montembeault, but we also have a much larger sample size of him being a very good goalie to base off future projections, right? So if you want to keep Jacob Fowler around, you have to keep Sam Montembeault as well, because you need that veteran presence in a pinch, right? And there's nothing wrong with Dobeš being sent down. I still think he's developing on a different curve as well. So I think Dobeš has to be the one to be sent down, because the highs and lows have been too inconsistent for me personally. Whereas I trust Montembeault based off the sample size that they have from the 60 games that he played a year ago, and then keeping them afloat a couple seasons ago. Like I trust Sam Montembeault, and Jacob Fowler is quickly gaining my trust as well with the way that he's played here.
And listen, I mean, I've seen some criticism about, Jakub Dobeš starting the game, Habs 3-goalie system, dumb. They play 4 days a week. They're 9-2-2 in their last 13 games.
Yeah.
I personally, everyone's entitled to their opinion. You can interpret how you choose to interpret. I look at how this team has been managed. They're still a top 3 team in the division. They're 2 points out of first place, and have been consistently in that race for most of the season. And the 3-goaltender system, while not ideal, has kind of worked for them so far. So when I looked at, if we go back to Saturday night, for me, the Red Wings game, right, was their biggest game of the year to date. Okay. And Jacob Fowler got that call. They skipped Jakub Dobeš.
Yeah.
They hosted Vancouver, the worst team in the National Hockey League. They gave that game to Jakub Dobeš. I've chosen to read into that. that they look at the more competitive game and they give it to the less proven guy, right? But the guy who's been hotter and looked better. How did you interpret? Was that a message? And then the next point, I guess, is how important is it for Sam Montembeault, whether they win or lose tonight in Washington, but how important is it for him to pass the eye test tonight?
Well, I look at it from the sense that we're starting our best goalie in our most important game of the year. And I think it's as simple as that. And then from the other side of the coin, we're starting, the guy that's had the most inconsistencies or has struggled the most here lately against a team that maybe he can get back on track against. So that's the way I see it in terms of the selection of the goaltenders. But Sam Montembeault tonight is going to be a big test because
it's huge. I agree.
The team in front of him is going to be tired.
Yeah.
And he might have to bail them out with a few pretty key saves in order to keep them in that hockey game. And he was able to do that against Florida in his first start back. Say what you want about that goal that Sam Reinhart scored from a sharp angle, but I thought he did enough to win that hockey game, and he did. I thought he played great down the stretch against Dallas with those key saves in overtime. So I think so far Sam Montembeault has passed the eye test. And against the team that knocked you out in the playoffs, where Montembeault's series was cut short, he might have some revenge aspect to it as well. Like, I want to get back at these guys. I didn't have the chance to finish the job against them. I want to prove to them that things may have gone differently if I was able to stay in between the pipes. So, I think it's huge for Sam Montembeault and huge for the Canadiens to stay afloat because 10 wins in a row for the Lightning. You've been overtaken by the Detroit Red Wings. And it's just ridiculous what's going on in the Eastern Conference right now. So
it's wild.
It's
crazy, it's not
but
parity. Like I've been telling, it's extreme parity what's going on in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, teams just don't lose. It's like they're always playing Western Conference teams or something. You look at the far right column, you see W3 or W4 in all of those teams. Like, what's going on there? Well, who are you playing against on a night thing? Come on.
Let's put this cup from Michelle as we talk about the three goalie system here. Dobeš would be the one to go down right now, but there is a necessity. But there is a necessity to send someone down right now. No, there isn't. Not until the Olympic break. How do you feel? But I've already expressed my point of view. The fact that after today, the Canadiens don't play back to back again until early March, so they're going to be free and clear into the break, and then coming out of the breaks, March 6th and 7th is their next back-to-back. How do you feel about, that question as it relates to development, getting reps in? When you're playing 4 days a week, to me, the three goalie system makes more sense versus the traditional playing the Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday format. To me, there's a world of difference. Am I wrong to think that way?
No. And it helps keep everyone fresh, and it helps you as a team as well, especially if you have three good goaltenders like I believe the Montreal Canadiens have. So, in a condensed, packed schedule, yes, it can be of benefit to you to have three goaltenders. But, if you're going with the standard schedule, it's not ideal for a guy to play once a week, especially not when you have two young goaltenders like Fowler and Dobeš who are still developing and still trying to figure out the game at the NHL level. So I think a decision needs to be made here. I don't know when it's going to be made by Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon, but I think you just roll with your two best guys and send one down. You have to, because they have to play games. It's important. You can't just play once every 11 days if you're Jakub Dobeš. It's not fair to him. It's not fair to his development, and you might need him down the line. You might, let's say one of the three gets injured next year, you might need Jakub Dobeš to step in and play some big games for you, and he's got to stay ready. So how do you do that? You let him play and let him get the net in Laval.
Peter Vrionis from TSN 690. Were you on the post-game show on TSN last night?
I was not on the post-game show yesterday. I was at the game with some friends. So
nice.
bought some tickets, and it was a great atmosphere. The Bell Center's been rocking lately.
Man, the Bell Center's on fire, man. From the Calgary game through the Florida game.
Just
They've
not a
been
fan of the
making news
wave,
around the
though.
league how
Not a
good
fan.
this.
Not a fan of the wave, Sean.
Me neither.
It broke out, and I was eating some nachos, and I had the nachos in one hand, and then I'm waving the other hand, like, come on, I'm trying to eat here. Come on.
Where were your seats?
We were center ice, but pretty high up in the blue.
Nice.
With the big time fans.
Especially, have you ever been to a playoff game at the Bell Center yet? Have you been to one?
No, but I went to the watch party last year outside the Bell Center. I don't know if that's for me. I don't know if I do that again. But getting too old for that now. But it was fun. Yeah.
I saw a lot of this too, certainly online in the last couple of days from Naz, who writes, Jakub Dobeš would likely welcome a trade if the team decides to send him to Laval. I mean, I don't know if I believe that. I mean, it sounds like a very entitled point of view. I don't think he comes across to me as that guy. Like, he's emotional, clearly. People will never forget the crying post-game Jakub Dobeš against the Devils there. People will never forget that. Yeah. But I don't see that type of attitude. I could be wrong. Naz could be onto something here. But what intrigues me, why I put this on the board, is I've seen people debate that if the Canadiens were inclined to move a goaltender, and let's speak hypothetically, what if it was, to Naz's point, he asked for a trade and the Canadiens are going to move Jakub Dobeš? The debate about value of how the league looks at Dobeš in terms of value in a hypothetical transaction. Personally, Peter, I think he has value. I don't see a goaltender that would get, let's say, I don't know, a 4th-round draft pick, no disrespect, but I see a goaltender still, in my opinion, with a pretty significant upside.
Absolutely. I mean, just his size alone is pretty tantalizing to some other teams that might want to take a look at him. So, I could absolutely see him being a guy who can get you a haul, maybe not a 1st-round pick, but maybe a B-level prospect or something like that. And as for him asking for a trade, I don't think anybody on the Montreal Canadiens squad, at least on this iteration of the team, doesn't want to be part of this. Yeah. They see that this is something special. They have, from everything that we've heard, Sean, it's a close-knit, tight-knit locker room, and they all love one another. And there's a great mix of, guys that have been in the league for a while and young leaders that are establishing themselves as superstars. So I don't think anybody wants to sell off their assets, I guess, if they're already on this team. They want to remain Canadians, and they want to remain and see this whole thing out.
What game are you more excited to see this team play? Thursday in Buffalo or Saturday against Ottawa?
It's Ottawa. I think that's become a real nice rivalry between those two teams, and I'm going to be honest. I don't hide behind the fact that I'm a Canadiens fan, even though I'm on the radio. I dislike the Ottawa Senators more than I dislike the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I'm going to go with that. It's always fun, and it's always chippy when those two teams go at it. And even in the preseason, they don't like each other, Sean, and I love that. I love that. It's nice.
I mean, they're in the basement with Columbus. They're on 45, but the Blue Jackets just turned their franchise over to coach 70-year-old, and I'm not an ageist, 70-year-old Rick Bowness. Okay, and I didn't see the word interim that went along with the announcement from CBJ. We've seen a lot of words from the Ottawa Senators. This team loves making statements. They love making statements these days. They love engaging with the trolls on social media. To each their own, I suppose. But with you, I simply full stop. I don't like the Ottawa Senators. They're easy to laugh at, and for all the right reasons, But there's something about this Ottawa team, man. Like, I mean, they were speaking with their chests recently, The rebuild is over. The rebuild is over. Look at the core of this team. And then again, Linus Ullmark takes a leave of absence for the team. They bring in James Reimer. They sign him to a one-way contract after a PTO. I don't know what's up with Allmark. I don't know what his future has in store. But there's something about this. It doesn't seem to matter where the Sens are in the standings, man. It's going to be a feisty game on Saturday. So I kind of see it your way too. I'm more intrigued for the Saturday game.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And Buffalo will be a good test too, because as we know, they've been on fire lately. So yeah.
What do you do with the goaltending? What do you do with the goaltending after tonight?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I guess
you give Dobich the Sens and you give Fowler the Sabres.
You give Dobich the Saturday night. Yeah, sure.
Let him chirp the Sens from the crease all night long.
Yeah.
Drive them crazy.
Yeah, I guess you go with that. I'm good with that.
Yeah. Peter Vrionis from TSN 690 on the starters Saturdays and Sundays. Peter, you're on the air this afternoon?
Yes. Actually, I gotta get going. I'm on air in 2 hours here.
Yeah, plenty of time. You're working with Gallo and John Still.
You're right. There's no Melnick. Time. No Melnick there. So
correct.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a lot of fun, man. The comments were great today from the chat. Always love that. And it was smooth, Peter. A good 60 minutes of hockey talk with you. Thanks so much for taking the time with us today.
Oh, it was a blast, Sean. Anytime you want me back, I'm happy to fill in for Marco.
All right, brother. Thanks again. And we'll see you soon. Don't forget, we're going to be back here live tomorrow following the Montreal Canadiens and Washington Capitals. So stay tuned for that. And we've got a lot of Habs content on the way. And don't forget, our live watch party is coming up from Public House McLean's at 1420 Peel Street on Saturday night when the Montreal Canadiens play at Ottawa. Come enjoy the game with us at Public House. Peter, thanks again, brother. We'll see you soon.
Thanks.